Jarrett said it greatly. He said there's only one world. There should be only one world champion. And he faced off against Jerry the King Lawler. And Jerry walked out the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world that night.
And you mentioned it earlier too, Eddie, the amount of titles, just total titles, that Jerry the King Lawler has won.
Now, last night at Oklahomania Day 1, Jeff Jarrett had some very disparaging words to say about the King and the fact that he is the only king coming from Tennessee as King of the Mountain.
Saying he's the real king of pro wrestling. It isn't Jerry the King Lawler. Well, Lawler's got a microphone now.
Let's wrestle for old time's sake. Come on. Let's go.
Hang on. Does anybody have a cane, Jerry?
So, Karen, do you think I need a cane or a wheelchair or a hearing aid? First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for the chain and all of that sort of stuff. This is awesome to be here with this great event. And it's awesome to be in the same ring with the King of the Mountain. No, please. Oh, you're such a lovely couple. I remember when you married Karen. Remember when you told me you said she looked like a Barbie doll? And then when I saw her, I said, you're right, she's plastic and brainless. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Where are you going?
I don't know. Where are you going?
I'm just admiring her. I'm just admiring her. Whoa, there it is. There it is. Are you proud of that? That caboose is as big as a moose. Do you realize that?
Karen Jarrett none too happy with the words of one Jerry the King Lawler. He's never been short on one-liners.
Shut my microphone off. You want to use it? You want to use the microphone? Everybody here, Karen, would love to hear. Everybody here would love to hear a talking hemorrhoid. So go ahead and say something.
Jerry the King Lawler is on par when it comes to verbal sparring with anyone like Dusty Rhodes or any other great guy in the ring on the mic. Jerry is on the Mount Rushmore.
Of course, we had Jim Ross out here. Him and JR were broadcast colleagues for a long, long time. And Jeff Jarrett once again having words with ring announcer Justin Roberts.
Well, you know, a lot of the fans nowadays may only know Jerry the King Lawler from his commentary with the WWE. But in the Mid-South territory, here in Oklahoma, Tennessee, down in Dallas, Texas with World Class, the King, back in the 80s, proved why he was called the King.
Of course, you remember the legendary altercation with the late, great Andy Kaufman. We're done here.
Karen's wanting to go home, call it an early night.
Well, Karen just took her shoes off a second ago, and Jeff is on the outside.
The fans getting into it, kind of encouraging them to leave. One of the fans in particular, if you look across, sign guy, goes to a lot of the WWE events, is certainly with the Revolution, with some very interesting signs for Jeff Jarrett tonight.
Jerry getting the chance here from the fans in Oklahoma City here tonight at Oklahomania. And I thought we were going to get a legend versus legend match here, Eddie. I thought this was going to be something that we could all look forward to. The fact that we were all proud to be here for. Whoa!
Now Jeff Jarrett putting his hands on the referee. That'll cost him some money here in the IWR.
But certainly the match hasn't begun. The bell never rang. Now it looks like Jeff's got a microphone.
Jim, I want to apologize to you right now. And I mean that with every breath in my body. Jerry, I came here tonight, and I want you to listen up. I want you to listen real good. This man right here in IWR called me and said, hey, we're having Oklahomania. It's going to be a great event celebrating professional wrestling that I grew up watching you and respecting you. And if there's one person walking God's green earth that is responsible for me being not a wrestler, not a promoter, but the biggest wrestling fan in the world, it's you. Shut up, I'm talking. But Jerry, you may have had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wives, I don't know, but that's my wife. And you're not going to shut up. You're not going to disrespect her. You're not going to talk down to that precious queen. That white crap is so passe. Would you guys get up with 2016, please? Jerry, the business has passed you by. I'm going to make you regret every word that came out of your mouth tonight because this is my ring, and when I get done with you tonight, you're going to understand you don't ever quit looking at her. You don't ever disrespect Jeff Jarrett.
Well, strong words from Jeff Jarrett. Seems to be very upset at the words of Jerry the King Lawler, seeming disrespectful to that of Karen Jarrett. The bell is rung. We're underway here, Eddie.
And there's no doubt what Jeff said was absolutely true. I know for a fact that he watched Jerry the King Lawler as he was growing up. Jerry Lawler debuted in 1970. Jeff Jarrett debuted in 1986. I happened to see it live when he was broke into the business by superstar Bill Dundee.
So many years later, and yet both these men were once tag team champions together. What a right hand from Jeff Jarrett, sending Jerry the King Lawler down.
These two guys know each other's styles. They've seen each other over the years.
They worked out together. They traveled the roads together, Eddie. They were tag team champions together. You don't become champions without building some sort of camaraderie. So it's so interesting to see these two men in the ring against each other.
Not only were they world tag team champions, they actually were in a movie together, Life with Mikey, with Michael J. Fox. Both of them were in the movie together as professional wrestlers. These guys know each other. They know their families. They know their kids. They know everything about each and every one of them. But tonight, they're hoping to prove once and for all who is the king.
Now, Jerry Lawler's always been considered the king, obviously the king of Memphis, but certainly the king of wrestling. And Jeff Jarrett has always tried to ascend to that level. And ironically, his nickname now, the King of the Mountain, here at Global Force Wrestling, and certainly all the stops previously before. But has he ever really been able to elevate to the level of notoriety, popularity that of Jerry the King Lawler?
Well, he certainly tried. He's known worldwide. You can't take anything away from him,
no.
even though he got all the respect in the world for Jerry Lawler and things that the King has accomplished. He's his own man. He's proved himself around the world.
And we talked about it. so decorated. These two men in the ring right now may be the most decorated men in the history of the business. What a right hand again from Jeff Jarrett, and Jerry Lawler. Perhaps a step slower than we're used to seeing him, but has been able to get it done in the ring for so many years and still gets it done to this day. He still finds time to get in the ring.
And that right hand from Jeff Jarrett, people that don't know, Jerry Lawler has one of the strongest right hands of anyone. I saw him take Hulk Hogan down one time. He actually has a pinfall win over Andre the Giant years ago.
He's got that devastating right hand, and when he goes to the top with it, that diving fist drop of his has put many a professional wrestler away. Jeff Jarrett's been on the early advantage throughout this one so far, as Jerry the King Lawler, Jeff Jarrett, two of the legends again. Again, we talk about Tennessee wrestling. Eddie, can you illustrate how important the state of Tennessee was to the history of professional wrestling?
Well, you have to understand, anyone that's in the sport of professional wrestling or have came through the Tennessee territory. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin when he came through. Hulk Hogan, actually Jerry the King Lawler signed for him to get his first car when he was a professional wrestler there in the Memphis territory. So the Memphis territory meant more than just the Tennessee territory. It meant something to the entire world.
Absolutely. And Jeff Jarrett in control here as we speak. Jerry Lawler back on his feet here. Hasn't taken Jarrett lightly. But Jarrett, look, he's almost changing color here to how red he is in terms of anger that he is towards Jerry the King Lawler for the words he said about Karen Jarrett earlier in the match.
And you can certainly understand that, but you also have to understand a legend like Jerry Lawler doesn't do anything just to be doing it.
Yeah.
It's done for a reason. It's done to get into his head, to get him off his game.
Collar and elbow here. Jarrett backs Lawler off of the ropes. Over the back, body chop up and over, and Jerry goes down to the canvas. Lawler's starting to get a little frustrated here as he gets back to a vertical base and kind of sits up over in the corner. And look at this. Jeff Jarrett just goes to the top rope, just kind of relaxing here.
Karen Jarrett over putting Jerry the King Lawler's crown on.
What disrespect. That's not her crown.
Not at all. Jerry the King Lawler has traveled the world for many years and earned that crown.
Now Lawler's finally spotted Karen wearing Jerry Lawler's crown.
And you know, there's a lot of history involved in this match. It's not just the Memphis territory, the Tennessee territory, the world-class area down in Texas and Mid-South here in Oklahoma. These guys have competed everywhere. Jeff Jarrett, when he does that strut across the ring, it's called the Fargo strut in homage to the fabulous Fargos. And Jackie Fargo, as many people know, was a mentor to Jerry the King Lawler in the sport of professional wrestling.
There's just so much history in the ring right now, and the fans here in Oklahoma City have to know that they're witnessing history here with these two men in the ring at this time. King versus King, King of the Mountain versus King of Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler. Looks like they're going a little test the string. Oh, and the right hand from Jeff Jarrett. That's just...
And like I said earlier, these two guys know each other's style. They know what to expect and to anticipate moves. And in this case, Jeff Jarrett was just one step ahead of the King.
Jarrett. He's having some words with the fans at ringside. Jerry starting to get some support here from the Oklahoma City faithful, and now Jarrett escapes to the outside. But I think Jarrett would tell you first that it's just a psychological tactic what he's doing right there. And he's no stranger to using mind games when it comes to using them in a match to try to gain an upper hand.
Well, you don't become a world champion for any organization, and certainly not the AWA or the NWA and WCW, without playing a lot of mind games and knowing what to do to make things happen, to make a opponent be in the spot you want them to be in, not the spot they want to be in. And both of these are king of mind games, if nothing else.
I had a chance to speak with Jerry earlier today, and I don't think he was letting on how upset he was at the comments Jeff Jarrett made last night in Shawnee, Oklahoma, but you could tell it kind of irked him a little bit that Jeff Jarrett, someone he thought respected him, someone that he rode the towns with, someone that he mentored in the early days, would just say those types of things, that he wasn't the real king of wrestling, as Lawler once again goes back down with a body slam. Jeff Jarrett, one more time, sends Lawler down to the canvas. And 2's not good enough. He's going to make it 3. And Jarrett not going for the cover, going for that strut you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. And every time Jerry the King Lawler sees him do that strut, it reminds him of his mentor who passed away, the fabulous one, Jackie Fargo. Just another mind game that the psychology of these two professional wrestlers have.
One of the things that always hampered Jarrett, even though he's had such a successful career, he's always tends to listen to the fans on the outside that kind of give it to him. He's always responding and sometimes takes an eye off of his opponent.
He does. He's certainly a person who, when someone says something to him, he listens. And when these fans who are tonight certainly solidly in the corner of Jerry the King Lawler gets under his skin, as you said, he's infuriated at the King, and now he's getting frustrated at the fans.
And another right hand. And I don't know about you, Eddie, but the comments that Jeff Jarrett made yesterday in Oklahoma, calling himself the real king of wrestling. Oh, another vicious right hand from Jeff Jarrett. How much of that is just underlying jealousy from Jeff Jarrett?
Well, he knows that the King has succeeded throughout the world. Back in the day when the territories were thriving, from Tokyo to Dallas, Texas to Portland, Oregon, wherever the King went, there was going to be a sellout. And Jeff Jarrett would love to be able to do that. But he came at a different time in our profession.
Jarrett punishing Jerry the King Lawler in the corner right now. And Lawler having trouble getting back up this time.
Well, there's no doubt those staggering right hands are taking a toll on Jerry Lawler.
Lawler getting back up, using the aid of the ropes here. He's been back in the turnbuckle.
Well, you know, Jeff Jarrett kind of made fun some of Jerry Lawler when he had his heart attack.
Oh!
But the King recovered. Yeah. Amazing recovery, back at full strength.
And back in the ring. Oh! Another vicious right hand from the King of the Mountain, Jeff Jarrett. Oh, once again, back in the corner. The referee has to look here that Lawler hasn't been able to get his hands up to protect himself.
But, you know, Jarrett, in addition to being a great wrestler, he's a guy that still has a respect for the traditional professional wrestling. Oh! But he wants to be at the top of the hill. You know, one of the founding members, referee Will Gibson, tired of some of the antics from Jeff Jarrett, not going to put up with it in the IWR ring anymore.
Now Karen on the ring apron at this time. Now Jarrett going to the right hands and Jerry Lawler in the corner, now bringing him outside to the middle of the ring. Oh! Strike after strike after strike from Jeff Jarrett. And now Jarrett calling for the microphone here.
Jeff Jarrett needs to be going for it.
1988 was our first encounter. 2016, what do you got to say? You give up? You give up? Huh, Kingfish, you give up? You can't take it. You can't take the kid. You can't take it.
Eddie, this is tough to watch right now.
What do you got to say, King? Huh? What do you got to say, King? You got one word coming out of that body? What do you got to say?
Huh? Speak up. Speak up.
He's speechless. He's speechless. He's speechless. The king of wrestling is speechless in front of the king of the mountain. King, what do you got to say? How you got anything to say?
I say,
I give up.
I say,
I give up.
my turn.
Oh! Right on the nose.
And down goes the strap. Jerry Lawler not taking any prisoners. Right? Oh, what a drop kick!
A drop kick from the King.
Snapmare takeover in the right hand, just pummeling on the bridge of the nose of Jeff Jarrett. Jerry Lawler relentless after the beating he took in the corner.
Well, Jeff Jarrett, he's not trying to beat the King. He's trying to destroy him. He wants the legacy to end tonight here at Oklahomania. But the King's not giving up. When the strap goes down, everyone in professional wrestling knows he gets that sudden burst of energy and able to make that comeback, and he's after Jeff Jarrett.
Now Jerry paying a little too much attention to Karen on the outside. He had some words for her earlier. Karen now coming on the ring apron. That's dangerous territory for Jeff Jarrett's wife. She shouldn't be up there. This is dangerous. And Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett signaling for him to hold so that Karen can slap the King. It backfired. It backfired.
She slapped Jeff Jarrett, her husband, the roll-up. And he got it.
Jerry, the King Lawler.